Welcome to Vintage Lunchbox Reviews, the show where I review my vintage lunchboxes. Right there in the name. Today I want to share with you one of my favorite lunchboxes. I own 50, 60 different vintage lunchboxes, and this one makes me crack up every time. If you can tell by magic screen there, this isn't by me smacking it. This is a McDonald's lunchbox, and there's a lot to get into on this. But before we even talk about this, I just want to talk about how weird it is that there's a McDonald's lunchbox. Now, McDonald's has been marketing stuff to kids since day one, right? Like they've always catered to kids, and I grew up like lots of kids with great memories on the McDonald's playground, and they have McDonald's high chairs, and they used to have little plastic McDonald's puppets that you could put on, little, like a glove when you went there. And of course, if you're my age, you grew up with the Happy Meal and the toys. I have Happy Meal toys piled up back there on the shelves. So McDonald's was a big, huge part of my childhood. And so in that aspect, it's really not surprising that McDonald's put out a metal lunchbox for kids to take their lunch to school. But the odd thing is that you're not going to be eating McDonald's. Nobody bought, McDonald's the night before. You didn't buy a couple of cheeseburgers or a Happy Meal and then stick it in this and put it in the fridge overnight, and the next day take McDonald's to school. My dad always says that McDonald's French fries are only good during the ride home. By the time you get them home, they're not good anymore. They got to have that. They got to be warm. They still got to have that crispness, and they lose that in about 10 minutes. So, this is really like a lunchbox. Like the whole time you would be looking at this at lunch at school, you think, I wish I were having McDonald's, but I'm not. I'm having a PB&J and a little cup of Jello, whatever. So let's get into this lunchbox because there's a lot to unpack. I'm trying to keep these episodes around 10 minutes long just to share what's on the lunchboxes and my memories or anything. And this is a wacky one. Actually, I'm going to start with this other side here because there's a complete story to unpack on this lunchbox. So right off the bat, this is introduced like a television episode title. This is Ronald McDonald, the sheriff of Cactus Canyon. So it's like an episode of a TV show. And I often wondered when I first saw this, I was like, is this a reference to a movie? Did Ronald McDonald ever play a sheriff? Was Cactus Canyon a thing? The answers to that is no, and no. There's no connection to this to anything. And if you think about some of the other lunchboxes I've shown in the show, like the Care Bears one, where the Care Bears are shown on the lunchbox doing what the Care Bears did. Or the Dragon's Lair lunchbox, which is basically scenes from the video game or the characters from the video game doing things like they do in the video game. This is Ronald McDonald in a brand new adventure. So in one way, that's kind of exciting. In one way, it's very confusing to a child who would come home and say, hey, did you know Ronald McDonald is a sheriff in some place called Cactus Canyon? And no one would know what they were talking about. So on this first, let's just call it the front side of this, we've got Ronald McDonald. He's relaxing there. He's the sheriff of Cactus Canyon. He's obviously sitting outside probably the jail there. And we've got Birdie. Now, Birdie is not necessarily the world's most popular McDonald's character, but there she is. And Birdie was represented it was Birdie the early bird. So she was the representative of early morning breakfast, would have much rather seen, I don't know, Captain Crook, Mayor McCheese, Big Mac, who was the police officer. That would have made sense to have him here. But no, we get Birdie. So maybe this was a way to introduce Birdie to kids is why Birdie is featured here. But we got to start at the beginning of this story here. And it's important to see down in here that there is a wanted poster. Of course, we know who's going to be wanted, and that's going to be the Hamburgler. The Hamburgler was always trying to steal hamburgers, and who, as a kid among us, did not walk around saying "robble, robble, robble," that sort of thing. So, of course, we have the Hamburgler here, and then we got a lot to get into. Here we have the Mayor McCheese, right? And we can see there's Grimace. Grimace is wearing a cowboy hat. This is all, of course, this is how people just dressed back when you lived in Cactus Canyon. But something is going on. We don't really know what's going on right now, but what appears to have happened is that someone has broken into the safe and stolen all the hamburgers. So now, the mayor's on the case. Ronald McDonald's on the case. We've got a crime to uncover here. And what happens at the end is that we can see they have caught the Hamburgler. There's the Hamburgler making his appearance here on the Lunchbox. And they have caught him. He is stealing the hamburgers. I mean, there's a lot to take in here. I mean, first of all, that in the 1800s, back in the Old West, there's a McDonald's. And then there would be shipments of hamburgers, and they would be stored in the safe until such time that Ronald would dole them out to people that he deemed worthy. So there's a lot of strange things in this story, but at the end, what we can see is that the Hamburgler has been apprehended. There he is there. He's been locked up. Grimace seems really happy about it. He's like, "That's what you get, Hamburgler." And he's got on his little cowboy hat. We've got the stagecoach, and then, of course, old Ronald McDonald's not going to let hamburger theft fly in his in Cactus Canyon. I did not have this one as a kid, and none of my friends had this Lunchbox as a kid. I was in an antique mall maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and I saw this, and I was like, what a bizarre Lunchbox. I don't remember Ronald McDonald being a sheriff of anything. Now, again, if you grew up in the era, if you were in the 70s and the 80s, you might remember that a lot of the commercials were like individual stories. It would be Ronald McDonald, and he might be trying to invent something, and Grimace would try to help him, and Hamburgler would show up and steal parts, and then they would rescue it. Or, maybe the McNuggets would show up and they would want to do something, and Ronald McDonald would have to help them or something. So the commercials did kind of have these storylines, so it's not completely off-brand. Let's say that this would be a unique storyline, but so much work. That's the mind-boggling part of this one, is that so much work went into this. I mean, someone created this story. All this artwork was done. I mean, it's all obviously original artwork. They didn't pull old sheriff from Cactus Canyon out of some book somewhere. I mean, this is all done and created. So it's really, really interesting, and I love this style of artwork. I mean, it's just really beautiful. Obviously, this is way predates any kind of computer assistance. So this is just either some painting or whatever. Wouldn't it be beautiful to see the original artwork of this hanging somewhere, to buy that and be like, hey, I got a painting of the Hamburgler stealing hamburgers out of a safe, breaking into the jail there. So it would have been very easy, very, very easy for someone to draw or paint a picture of a McDonald's restaurant and put the figures around it. Maybe on the other side, you could have put Grimace and a Hamburgler and just some burgers, or Ronald McDonald and some hamburgers or something. That would have been very easy to do. So kudos to McDonald's for coming up with this Lunchbox that in some ways has more questions than answers. I also like, from a personal standpoint, that Birdie doesn't make any other appearances. No part of this crime-fighting criminal investigation of the Hamburglar is Birdie sticking her nose in. It almost seems like maybe Birdie was distracting McDonald's. Maybe we live in a world where, could Birdie have been an accomplice? I don't know. That doesn't seem likely. But, Ronald was just talking to her while the Hamburglar was coming in to crack the safe here and get this. So what a fun lunchbox. I really enjoy this one. I don't have the thermos, but I really wish that I did. I'm not sure what's on it, so I may, on eBay you can look for just a thermos or just a lunchbox, and sometimes you can pair those two things together. So I may go search for the thermos to add to this one, because I would like to have that. There's not much inside this one here. Again, all the Aladdin lunchboxes, as I mentioned, have the little graphic that show you where to put the thermos. In this case, it's literally just a diagram showing me what I don't own. So it makes me sad to look at it, so I don't open it up that much. But again, as with all the Aladdin lunchboxes, you've got a color theme, and for Ronald McDonald, it makes me think of French fries or the McDonald's arches, but you've got yellow trim on both sides, which matches the handle on this one. So this is Ronald McDonald as the sheriff of Cactus Canyon. It is one of my favorites just because it's so goofy and weird. And the one thing that would never probably most likely be in here is McDonald's food in this McDonald's lunchbox. So it's a little bit odd. That's all I have to say about this one. Tune in tomorrow to find out what is next on the lunch menu.